Now, I've got to give mad props to Tony for the way he scheduled the events today. So it kind of feels like it's all been leading to this. We saw Jesse with ER this morning telling us why we need to have a powerful brand. He sold us on this. Oh God, I don't know about you guys, but I was sold by that PowerPoint. He had so much data, and it was so pretty. He had bar graphs, charts, the whole 9 yards. Business intelligence, all up there for games developers. So we knew why we needed to do it. Then we caught up with Corey, and she told us, she gave us some ideas of how to do it. She gave us practical tips and examples of how you can actually go about building your brand and developing that PR campaign. And all of us had these questions about, well, what's the that's I kind of understand that, but how would I go about that from the process of first starting my first game and nobody knows me? How do I even start talking to people? How do I develop a relationship with a journalist so that they think I'm a cool guy and not some really nosy bloke? And then now we get to have a chat to Phil, who's done the magic behind Fruit Ninja and Halfbrick, and he's gone through all those experiences and has some of the best stories to tell. So thank you, Tony, wherever you are. Brilliant work. And without further ado, Phil Larsen from Halfbrick, Position with Power.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
So yeah, obviously, as I'll start off, I'm a bit sick today. I've been in China for the past 5 days, and that wasn't great for my health. But yeah, I'm here to power through, and hopefully we'll be able to get through this, and you'll be able to get something out of it. So I'll take it slow and try not to confuse myself. Alright, so has everyone had fun so far? It's been really successful. Great. I've been missing it, so that's unfortunate. So basically, I'm here to sort of talk about positioning and marketing in a broad sense. Everyone here, I assume, is making their own game or involved with the game development in some way. So, there's a lot of questions you might have about what I can do to get my name out there and how to position my game to be the most successful. And that's what we've done a lot at Halfbrick over the past 18 months to 2 years. So, yeah, let's make a start. So, who am I? I'm Honest Phil, or Phil Larsen. In charge of all the marketing and PR at Halfbrick, and that's me in Jetpack Joyride as an unlockable character. So if you ever have to, if you ever want to play that game, feel free to kill me and run into lasers and fire and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. Alright, so here's a brief overview of sort of what we're going to be covering. Marketing in a broad sense. I know I've talked about this before to a lot of you guys, and there's still probably some unanswered questions. There's still people who are sort of in the dark, so I'll go over that again. Working with success in mind, there's always debate between indie developers and really commercially successful developers, and figuring out where that balance of actually having a job and making money in the games industry really is. I'm talking about the quality of the game and how that relates to success and marketing in general. And positioning, so positioning the game for success, but also positioning your own studio and your own development and your brand for success as well. And I like to go give lots of examples all the time, because that otherwise is pointless theory and that's boring. Alright, so marketing. Who's actually studied marketing before? A few people? Alright, cool. Well then this should be relevant to a lot of you. It's fairly basic stuff, but something that everyone should keep in mind. So marketing is a real buzzword right now. It wasn't a few years ago because there was a lot more publisher projects, and a lot of indie developers are all agreeing, yeah, we should do marketing and get our word out there and so on and so forth. And they always talk about it, but it seems that everyone's just talking about it as something they need to do. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So, I think it's pretty misunderstood frequently, at least in the game space. You can do marketing for any kind of industry. So it could be boring, a lot more exciting. Game development, you get to be a bit more creative and you have a bit more freedom, especially when you're making projects yourself. And I like to try and clarify that for everyone about what it really means and how you can sort of embrace it more, rather than just think of it as some stupid, annoying task to do. So this is a very dry definition. There's a lot of definitions. but it's good to at least sort of take it all in and sort of figure out what works best for you. So the management process is responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements profitably. So profitably is a key word. I mean, you want to make sure that everything that you do as a business, so identifying the market research, anticipating, predicting what's going to happen, obviously developing ahead of time, and satisfying customer requirements. That's obviously making the game itself. You've got to give them the product, you've got to satisfy them in that way. And profitably, you want to make money while doing it so you can continue to do so. Alright, so developers often have their project is their baby. They want to see it through and they want to make sure that it's successful, and they're in love with their own game, which is cool, but you just need to be aware of that, of when to make decisions and when your judgment might be clouded. And I love that. Do marketing. You don't just do marketing. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to shovel a pile of dirt and I'm going to do a dig in a ditch. You don't do marketing. Marketing is kind of everything that you do, everything that you sort of work around to make your game successful. And I'll elaborate on that. So they go, okay, we're going to make this game and we're going to wonder why, and they do marketing and they just wonder why it wasn't successful because we did marketing, right? That's right, we did it, we're supposed to do it. Obviously they were clouded because they loved it, and everything they said about their game they loved because it was coming from them. And there's a couple of examples. I'm using indie games as an example, Xbox Live indie games. You've got Clover, which is this quasi-adventure RPG text-based thing, game in a sense, and that was sort of well received, but no one really understood how to sort of interpret it, and it did get a bit of buzz and it did a bit of PR, but in terms of marketing from a positioning standpoint, it didn't do very well. Whereas the biggest selling indie game of all time was I made a game with zombies in it. That's very, very simple and it's very easy to understand what it is. And when you back that up with core level marketing like PR, promotions, that kind of thing, that game was designed with success in mind, it's positioned for people to understand exactly what it is. So marketing mix, very, very theoretical stuff. The 4 Ps of marketing. So product, price, promotion, and place. So I can go through each of these one by one just so you understand sort of how they all fit in together. So product, that's your game. So you've got like Pac-Man compared to like Coca-Cola. So I like to make this comparison because as game developers, we have a bit more fun in terms of we're constantly making new games and we're able to sort of be more creative. Whereas Coca-Cola is always going to be Coca-Cola. It's always going to taste exactly the same unless they do some new Coke and it tastes like shit or something. But it's a lot more exciting for me. I don't necessarily want to market soft drinks. Price, there's heaps to talk about price. I can do a whole presentation on that itself. I think it's a lot of fun figuring out the right price for your game, but the price is also dependent on the method of distribution. We're talking a lot about mobile stuff these days and how so many freemium games, in-app purchase, and top grossing is dominated by free games. Look at this chart, it's about half and half, so that's due to a number of factors. Sales, Scribblenauts right there, that's on sale. Angry Birds is always there. Poker games, Dragon Veil, that's a very successful recent game. So depending on your game and depending on where you're releasing it, you can determine the best price for it. And promotion. Now promotion this is a pretty broad term for games. Promotion isn't just like publicity stunts or competitions or anything. That also includes PR, so getting the word out there in general. That's a photo from one of the marketing guys at Microsoft who helped us develop and release Ninja Connect, and that's him winning his prize for the highest score in the world. He was top of the leaderboard for a long time, so yeah, he's awesome. Alright, and place. Now, you've got a lot of options. So, we've worked on a lot of these platforms, almost all of them I think, And there's success stories on all platforms. So I can only assume most of you, if you're working on a game, you're probably working on an iPhone game. But you just need to be aware of everything that's going on and what kind of the mentality is behind the platform holders and the manufacturers, sort of make decisions based on that. If you have a really good Flash game, there's so many different portals you can have. Xbox Live, there's Xbox Live Arcade, indie games. You have to understand how each portfolio is managed and how best to submit the game for that. Because obviously some things are a lot easier than others. Alright, so this is how marketing works, or sort of used to work in kind of a traditional publisher-developer relationship, or maybe in like a large company where there's a marketing department and there's an art department and whatever. And then, you want them to all sort of gel, but that doesn't really happen. So most people sort of like, oh, marketing sucks, I want to make my game. The marketing guys are always telling me to do stuff or change stuff. And I think that's due to a few reasons. One, because sometimes marketing people aren't really gamers, they're business people who have been employed in a big company, and they don't understand game development as much, and they don't understand games as much. Two, because the developers themselves don't really understand the importance of marketing, and depending on the relationship between the publisher and developer, or just independent developer, marketing departments, and whatever, they don't understand the importance of various factors and various tasks that need to be completed. So, you sort of throw that all into the mixing pot over an extended period of time, and you can cause some trouble. So that's why it really needs to sort of work to make sure those all meld together. So how it should work, So this is like really how I try and make things work at Halfbrick. Everyone kind of works together really well, and they understand what I do and how it sort of works to ultimately benefit the team, to make each team profitable and create these massive brands. So obviously, if you've heard Luke's talk earlier, he's designer on Fruit Ninja and Jetpack, Joyride and stuff, and we speak many times a day, and I do so along with the other team leaders to figure out what we're doing, where we're going, how the games are progressing, and what we can sort of do better. And I can offer them insight and research into what I've done, sort of improve that process, and really schedule things out and get a good plan in place. And we'll be doing that a lot, and there's a lot more projects that we're sort of working on at any time, so we're always very busy right now. So here's something that I've heard a bit. So I've heard some guys say, success is all just about marketing, and that's true to an extent in the sense that the definition is, it's everything that you do to be successful. But when they say it in that way, then it raises a red flag, because it means they're not understanding something correctly. So there's two things that are wrong with that. So wrong thing one. So they're assuming that marketing doesn't form part of the development cycle. So it's just all about marketing. It's not about the development. And they think it's just a task to check on at the end to make it sell. They don't think that any kind of marketing function forms part of the development cycle. And number two, they believe that quality is less of a factor for success. So they think, you can make a crappy game, or this game did well, it was just marketing, it wasn't very good, and that's crap. I've always said, and will always say, that quality of the game is still, paramount. You can't, if your game is not good, you're not going to make any money. There's flash in the pan successes, and there are exceptions, and I can go over a few. But the only sure way to actually stay in business and keep making games is to make sure that they're extremely high quality and very polished. And obviously this is fairly basic stuff, but touch on everything. So the biggest sellers, the biggest brands, so on and so forth. So it's sort of a broad range there. You've got console, PC, mobile, Xbox and things like that. And, they're all extremely high quality, and they always get consistently good reviews. And reviews, that's PR function, and reviews aren't everything, but when you consistently get these kinds of numbers, that's what builds up your brand. That's what positions your game to be like, holy crap, this is actually something that we should take notice of. So, same with mobile. You know, these are all the biggest games on mobile. And they're all, you know, 4.5 to 5 stars consistently. And that's not press reviews, you know, that's consumer reviews. You've got thousands, tens of thousands at any one time. And you know, those numbers speak for themselves, and those customers are really sort of providing that information to you that's extremely, extremely valuable. And there's ways that if you don't keep up that quality, you're just going to get a progressively lower and shittier score. So, unfortunately, you know, things like that happen, and the positioning of these games and the development of these games becomes worse and worse, and they kind of lost their way. And then when that happens, then you eventually sort of give way to competitors, understanding things a lot better, understanding how a new concept or a new market is going to emerge, and that needs to be conveyed to the developers to be able to make that product really quality. So as I said, there's sort of exceptions to the rule. You know, I never really based. I understand why these are, but you know, it still doesn't really change anything as far as I'm concerned. Not every game that sells well is high quality. Not every game that is high quality sells well. The second point is far more true than the first one. So there's plenty of high quality games out there, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that are very, very good that you just don't see at all. So you know, Carnival Games did gangbusters on the Wii, you know, not particularly high quality, but you know, it had a position, it had a market for on the Wii, and that really took people by storm. You know, when they don't have any other options, and they're really that's something that they just expect from, you know, intrinsically from the bottom of their soul. When they're talking about Wii, they think, oh wow, cool, Carnival Games. It just makes complete sense to them, and that's why it did so well. Whereas something like this, you know, that was a quality game which basically had a really, really messed up position, really messed up identity that didn't sell well, and you got to the point where, yeah, the media was starting things like buy Zack and Wiki campaign to try and implore readers to buy the game to make it successful. It didn't work because, you know, you're fighting against the grain in these kind of circumstances. So, you know, that kind of brings me to my point. And, you know, an aspect of marketing that I'm going to delve into a little bit deeper than what I've done before, than what I've sort of said so far. So, what is positioning? So, it's how your company and your game is perceived by the consumers in relation to the competition. So, me standing next to another guy, you know, I've got a beard and he doesn't. That's something. If you like beards, if the girl likes beards, she's going to pick me instead of him. I had long hair for that same reason for many years. It still didn't work. I assumed that girls that like long hair, they'll pick me out of all the other guys, but no, it didn't work. So that, yeah, that's me not wanting to know whatever. Oh, thanks. So create your identity. You know, everyone in here creates their own identity for themselves. You can do that for your game as well, and your company. So, I'm going to actually, this is a repeat of what I brought up before, but you know, just to reiterate, you know, there's so many different things, platforms, and each one is more sort of aligned with a particular identity. You're not going to be able to create specific positions on all of the platforms. You know, obviously iOS and mobile is more casual. Xbox Live, you know, is more online multiplayer. Facebook's a Flash kind of farming games, freemium games. So you sort of understand that position, work within that, and then create your own unique identity within that sort of subspace. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Fruit Ninja Connect. You know, a lot of people always ask me, why don't you give me some tea? Yes. Alright, thank you. So Fruit Ninja Connect, a lot of people ask me, oh, so who sort of brought that up? Like, it was on XBLA, so Microsoft, did Microsoft approach you, or did you approach Microsoft or whatever? So I think this is a really good story in the sense that I honestly don't have an answer for that because it made so much sense to both of us. I mean, what happened was, we'd worked with Microsoft before for a number of years on like Rascals and things like that, and keep in touch with those guys, and we had another conference call with them, and then sort of we were both thinking the same thing at the same time. And I think one of the producers, Kevin, said, okay, so literally just dropped in, so for Reconnect, what are we doing with that? We've never even talked about it before, but he just sort of knew that we were thinking about it. And it was like, oh yeah, here's what we're going to do. And it just immediately spawned like that. Because we knew that identity would work so well for the Connect. We didn't want for Ninja to be, on all these different things where it made no sense and you sort of lose that magic. But we thought the Connect and XBLA specifically, it was going to be a good fit. So we'll go into some examples. Okay, so that's just a quote from the media. Now, that's important for the reason that Giant Bomb, it's a very, it's core gamer, everything about it, they do a lot of console stuff, hardly even do any PC things. It's very much a stereotypical gamer, guy, girl, whatever. And Free to Connect is not only, a version of an iPhone game, but it's also very simple, even for XBLA standards. So sort of what I did was, people would ask me, it's really, it's just kind of like a simple game. They're used to things like Shadow Complex or Lara Croft on XBLA, which are multi-million-dollar projects now. And Shadow Complex did pretty well, even though I think they were disappointed in the eventual sales. And games like Lara Croft, they did okay, but not amazing. People always ask me, it's so simple, that all you do is slice fruit. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, that's the whole point. That's the identity of the game. That's what it is. I'm not a jerk about it where I say, if you don't want it, then screw you. But you have to believe in that position and that identity. And then if you start second guessing yourself and say, but I think it could be, no, that's no good. You're going to sort of create confusion. And sort of, that's something funny. It's an award that we received at E3 for Best Watermelon Slicing Game, 2 years in a row. So, so that's a position. However simple and humorous it is, that's an identity. It's the best watermelon slicing game ever made. That's right, we did it. And what happened was, in the media, was because we stayed true to that position and we sort of conveyed it with everything that we did, with the trailer, when we met them at meetings like E3, promotions, PR, that kind of thing. When it came to the time when they actually played the game, they were like, hey, this is actually cool, they got it, they understood, because we'd sort of helped them understand that, and then as soon as they started playing it, they're like, okay, yes, it is a casual game, but we reminded them of what XBLA really is. XBLA was designed to be a simple casual marketer. Games on that used to be a maximum of 50 megabytes. That was what it was for. And then sales were early days did really well, and that's why people started committing more and more to budgets. And then it's sort of, and I wouldn't say that it's like a bubble and the bubbles burst, but it stopped accelerating to the point where everyone's making $20 million, $30 million in XBLA. So yeah, it really brought that purity back to XBLA, I think, and sort of we knew that from the beginning, and we wanted to, and I brought the purity to Connect as well. I mean, Connect has problems, but we wanted to sort of minimize that and say, look, all we want to do is make sure that slicing input is correct. And Luke had a lot of sort of design input on that, because unless that input is correct and unless that slicing feels as good as it does, then you've wasted everything else. You're not just going to cram a bunch of features in there and sort of tack on a bunch of things that make no sense. The purity is about slicing, and that's the sort of position and identity we created. Exactly the same from mobile to the strengths of the Connect. Jetpack Joyride. Who's actually played Jetpack Joyride? That's good. Good. Yeah, I like it. It's one of my favorite games that we've made. So basically, what happened was, we had this idea for, the endless run. I call it an endless. People say endless runner or cave flyer or whatever. We knew that the game concept was done before, but we really knew that we could add the amount of content and the personality to it that would end up making it the best endless runner ever. And I believe that it is. And even though that's a very, very lofty kind of position, it's a position nonetheless, and one that I thought was appropriate for this, because I was on a call with one of the editors from Touch Arcade, and we did a podcast, and they said, so, dude, you've been working on this game for like 8 months, because I showed it to them earlier. And he said, it's just a cave flyer. I was like, yeah, but it's going to be the best cave flyer ever. He's like, oh, okay, all right. So, and then when I gave it to them, they went nuts. They really understood it, and that game is our most critically acclaimed game. It's hopefully we're going to win some Game of the Year awards, at least in the mobile sector, and I'm really, really proud of everything we achieved. And what Jetpack Joyride position is, it represents sort of, I don't like to say perfection, but like just an amazing package of all of the things that make a casual game what it is, and all the things that we've learned, and sort of brings it together in this universally accessible package. And that's why you can say things like it's the best endless runner ever. So these sort of ways that we communicate that position without, I don't write in the press release, this is the best endless runner ever. There's other ways you can do it. You need to be a bit more intelligent than that. So we created some dev diaries and sort of positioned them to be. I mean, a lot of iPhone games are made by small 1 million teams or whatever. But if we sort of really commit to making these resources really polished and sort of portraying that professionalism, then sort of the big media is really going to take notice, and that in turn will get people to think, well, okay, this is an endless runner, it's a cave flyer or whatever. But all this is happening surrounding it, it's getting all this sort of information. This must be really, really something to watch out for. So that you flag that in people's minds. And we did, I think, like 4 or 5 of the development diaries, each focusing on a different aspect that people wouldn't even think about. That think about it's a cave flyer, so you just push a button and go up and down. But we had so much content in there that we were able to sort of bring that all together to a point where, people would be expecting nothing but the best. So, I mean, we did go to E3. We did that with Fruit Connect as well, but because that's still sort of a very much a console, core gamer space, we went there with Jetpack Joyride still, and it did reasonably well. But just having the fact that it was there did great things for its identity, in the sense that no one else was really sort of putting any kind of stock behind their mobile games, and so that's what we're experts at. And just through, like I said, it was like 8 months of development and sort of iteration, sort of communicating new features. Everyone sort of really started to take notice, and when you see quotes like that, it's like, okay, great. Now that the consumers know that we know what we're doing, so therefore we have the responsibility to deliver this quality product, and finally have things to talk about. So. Like I said, with the development diaries, we're constantly adding new content with support and things like that. So if you don't back up your claims, then you're going to be in trouble. And sort of what happened was, it was originally called Machine Gun Jetpack. I'm sure a lot of you know that. So we actually did decide to change the name at the last minute, and it didn't change the identity in the sense of the content of the game, but just in terms of the top level sort of contact point with the mainstream. So we changed it to be more family friendly. The machine gun may turn off some people. Jetpack Joy, and we'd added so many more jetpacks in there. It wasn't just machine gun jetpacks, so we wanted to reflect that as well. and just be more of a celebration about the fact that it is a joyride. It is going to be a lot of fun. As they lived out, I forget how many days it was before we actually launched, but it was pretty close. And we did a video to communicate that. We said, hey, look, I mean, this is the reason why we're doing it. It's got all the cool features. This is how we created that identity. And some people might change the name of the game. It just kind of farts out, and no one really understands why. So that was kind of an extra little piece of ammunition we had. So yeah, difficult decisions. That was a difficult decision. Right. But yeah, you work through as smoothly as possible, and you sort of bite the bullet and figure out ways to transition. So that was the original logo that we'd had for a long time. Here's another example here, sort of Castle Crashers. This, to me, is still the most accessible and universal co-op game of modern digital distribution. So, when people were talking about Xbox Live Arcade, and some of the features were getting more kind of exposure than others, and they did Alien Hominid, which was kind of this weird beat 'em up. It didn't really have anything that the player could really connect with personally. So Castle Crashers added in kind of the RPG elements, kept the characters basic, red, blue colors, and that kind of identity is really what made it, the biggest XBLA game of all time. And that position still rings true today. And there's other games that have come out like it, like the Scott Pilgrim game, things like that. But what they did, they didn't create a position unique enough. And I'm going to talk about the how far you need to go shortly. But yeah, Castle Crashers did enough, and no one's sort of been able to extend their own identity past that since then. And Monster Dash, this is our this is the second game after Fruit Ninja that we made. It recently just passed 1 million downloads. So, and what this is, I'm not using this as an example of game positioning necessarily, but so what happened was we understood that it was going to be a really great endless runner. It had great character and personality, but in terms of obviously the universal accessibility, we weren't sure we're going to have that mainstream effect. But I was so kind of I knew that it wasn't going to be as financially successful as Fruit Ninja. That's me being greedy and spoiled, because Fruit Ninja has made so much money, more money than most games. And Monster Dash, it's 1 million downloads, of paid downloads. It's more than made back its money and then some. But what I sort of said was, it's okay, we're going to make some money. It's not going to be as big a hit as Fruit Ninja, and we'll have to accept that. But what it is something we're proud to have as part of our portfolio of games. We're proud to have it as part of Halfbrick. So, like I said, there's a lot of developers that have made games that are quality, but they haven't sold well. But still, a lot of people understand that these guys are talented, or this game is really quality. But so they're lacking in a few other issues. But in terms of this, yeah, we were happy to have Monster Dash, and I'm always happy to have Monster Dash as part of our portfolio. And sometimes you do have to sort of stop supporting a game because it clashes with your identity as a developer. But Monster Dash is still definitely what we're all about. And as I said, Halfbrick, you look at our App Store, I always want to make sure that page, that developer page, has consistent quality. If there's going to be any major black marks, I'll fight to sort of cross them out. Pure Blast Off is still hanging in there. It's it's a good game, but it was a port, and I'm still happy to have it there, but I won't be promoting it heavily anytime soon. Check it out if you want. It's bad. Okay, so like I said before, you have to sort of define how, where your position needs to be, and how revolutionary you need to be. Now, when I say you need to create your own identity and position, it doesn't need to be revolutionary. It doesn't need to be some ridiculously innovative thing that no one's ever seen before. It doesn't need to be change the way the games are looked at forever or anything like that. That's just not the case at all. So there's no line of innovation that you need to suddenly cross to actually create your own identity. So you need to determine that position based on the market that you're going for and your creative goals. There could be similar situations in past markets. So in terms of creating that, you have to figure out, if you could choose one point to describe your game to someone, what would it be? If it's a game where you slice fruit, that's fine. If no one's really seen it before, or if there was fruit slicing and it was good, but it wasn't in the right market, so you'll be able to sort of take that and make your own. That's not particularly revolutionary, but it's something that you've identified through research and development, then that's great. But you can start from there. It isn't just restricted to the one line. Positioning is an ongoing process. One line is going to be a slogan for a billboard somewhere. So there's a lot of attributes that make your product worthy within its optimal space. Build your image around what you believe to be the identity that will best describe your gaming company. And I've got a few examples of that. You can create an entire world around that identity. Valve is definitely kind of a world in and of itself. Everyone sort of understands what they're all about and how they operate within each market, and they'll make games when they're done, but they're always going to be high quality. So some other things to think about when you're sort of coming up with that is your position functional. So is that good? Is your game or app even a functional app that's going to serve some kind of purpose? Is it symbolic or social? What that means is it something that is going to better my standing in the eyes of you guys? Like a Facebook app, or is it going to be something else to I don't know about social, creating new social apps, but is it going to be something that sort of assists that way? Be creative, allow people to do different things, drawing apps, games, things like that. Scribblenauts is a good sort of creative game there. Experiential, and I've got an example for this in just a second. Is the game purely about the experience? Fruit Ninja is a lot about the experience. We have a lot of people contacting us saying, we just want a mode that all you ever do is slice fruit. There's no score, there's no time, there's nothing. You just slice this fruit forever until you stop. And we decided that was a terrible idea, and we didn't do it. Not for the fact that guy, or whoever it was, we had a lot of them, they would have liked it, but you have to sort of create that position that will be reflected across sort of all fronts, and you don't necessarily want to sort of attack a niche within a game that's already doing so well within a particular segment. It can be a combination of things. So I just checked out the app of the week just now, Photo Genie. So you're able to edit your photos in a different kind of way. I didn't download it or anything, but clearly it's doing something unique there, and the icon's reasonably good, and it also talks about how the fact that you can do these for the purpose of being symbolic and social. You can upload it to various things, you can get people to comment on, so on and so forth. So it's a kind of looks like a decent app with a pretty solid identity. So there's, when I talked about experiential positions, if you wanted to make a game called Super Shark Punching, this isn't actually a game. You can make it if you want, but you have to think about, okay, when you're prototyping, you're coming up with themes. There's all kinds of different things. You say, okay, what am I going to really talk about this game? Is this Super Shark Punching going to be a game like got to punch them all, like pick all the different species of shark and punch them all? Or is it about punching the biggest sharks in the whole world? Is it about the experience? Or is it about sort of creating a wall of sharks that you've punched and then sort of get them out there to all your friends? It could be a lot of those things, but you know, even if you have a wacky idea like this, and I'm sure a lot of you have wacky ideas, you know, we have wacky ideas at Halfbrick, you know, don't necessarily throw them out. You just need to find that position and figure out what's the best possible way, depending on all these different markets, that it could do well. I mean, it could be a connection where you actually do that, and that might be fun. I'm talking about sort of mindshare a bit, and this is something that sort of comes with extended sort of position and identity management, and it's basically, you know, where are you in the minds of consumers in the market? Where is your company? You know, how much? When you think about console manufacturers, you know, which one comes to mind? Is it Microsoft, or is it Sony? You know, which has the most mind share to you? You know, how are you perceiving them? So this is definitely a longer process to build. You can have, you know, runaway hits overnight, things like that, but each one sort of has value in the minds of consumers in a different way, and it takes a lot of work to sort of build that, even if you do get that instant hit. I've got a few examples here as well that we can talk about. So Halfbrick, obviously ourselves, you know, our position is that, you know, we're basically, you know, one of the best developers in Australia. You know, we're focused on mobile and casual games at absolute top quality, and, you know, we're all about the experience and the fun factor. And, you know, through our games that we create that position, and to the point where people are always talking about the fact that, you know, oh, it's a new Halfbrick game, great, you know, it's going to be quality, it's going to be fun, it's going to have these features. They understand that without expressively having like a slogan for your company. Some companies do. You know, Angry Birds is a thing where, you know, that game got really, really popular really fast, and now it's in the mindshare, sort of in the common mainstream audience, because what they did with that runaway success. And, you know, there were games that were #1 in the App Store before Angry Birds, but Angry Birds was the one that actually sort of took it to the next level and said, you know, we're going to create this entertainment brand around it. And I'm sure you've heard a lot about branding, and it's sort of definitely something that we manage as well, but that's a talk for another day. But, you know, their mindshare is now that they're an entertainment brand. Like, they've always said that they're not a games company. I guess they were a games company for a while, but they definitely said they're not, because they're making a movie, they do merchandising. And the games, you know, they've still only got 3 games, or, well, 3 core games: Angry Birds, Seasons, and Rio. But in terms of, you know, that casual space, there's no one sort of more well-known than Angry Birds. And I say Angry Birds, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how well Rovio as a company is perceived, because they're always sort of pushing Angry Birds ahead of themselves. But, you know, that's something that we'll sort of see as time goes on. Halfbrick has a bit more of that identity, because we have a few different IP, and I promote these as Halfbrick games. So when I talk about a game like Jetpack Joyride, part of that positioning is saying it's from the creators of Ninja. I use that line all the time, because you know, a lot of people may not know about it. I can't talk to every single person about it, but so long as I have that, you know, at least conveys that quality. And, you know, it's our responsibility to back that message up with a quality game, and, you know, that's what we did with Jetpack. PopCap, you know, they have definitely established themselves as, you know, one of the best, if not the best, casual game developers in the world. And I was speaking to their guys recently, and, you know, they're not nearly as focused on merchandise as Rovio are, and you know, they think that sort of takes away from their games, and that's fine. If you're able to sort of build success in that with that position, then that's a great way to be. You know, the Wii U, whenever that comes out, or whatever that's going to be, you know, I've dealt with Nintendo for a bit, and you know, they're going to be, you know, inside their own world. They don't do much that is along the lines of what everyone else does. They pretty much do what they want to do, and they make it work, you know, half the time. You know, one console will do really well, the next might do really poorly, so on and so forth. There's well, it's really going to be interesting to see how their mind share sort of comes out when the Wii U comes out, and sort of how they position that to compete against the other technologies that are sort of perhaps surpassing it. There's another example, Uppercut Games. I don't know if anyone is in here in the room right now, because I know they're a GCAP, but they're a developer that just released Epoch on iOS, and this is simply an example to say that, because I checked out their website and they basically said, we bring AAA experiences to mobile, and I was like, okay, that's great, that's his position. I mean, in terms of long-term viability, is that going to be successful? Perhaps, it's all about anticipation as well with the marketing mix, but having that confidence and being able to do that and communicate it in a clear way, is part of the battle one. I mean, saying AAA games to mobile, I perceive that as AAA and high production values, amazing graphics, almost like console AAA. I think that's sort of where that wording comes from. It's sort of transitioned to mobile now. So yeah, it's that kind of identity that could really work well for a developer. And I'm only going to touch on this quickly because you don't want to talk about repositioning too much. You're just sort of thinking about positioning and identity. But it's something that we're kind of working on with Fruit Ninja almost. We are going to sort of extend the brand and the world of Fruit Ninja and make that kind of more mainstream through different multimedia channels and things like that. So that's something we're working on. So more than just what the original position was, being a simple arcade game. We slice fruit. This fruit is very satisfying, and it worked, and it's definitely still working. But in terms of where you want to grow, your goals as a developer, you may need to reposition. And I'll just give you a little teaser image there of sort of what we're working on in terms of the art style, in terms of the brand, and sort of where we're going. There's the story behind this, but this is the prettiest image that I had on my little PC at the time. So yeah, you're definitely going to see some more Fruit Ninja coming out very soon. So yeah, I mean that's a very broad overview of it, but I think I hope you guys have sort of had an idea to sort of understand the concept of positioning a bit better. So sort of going forward, you want to make sure your games are in the right hands. You don't want someone who doesn't understand the concept of marketing, who doesn't understand how that affects you and your development and creativity. And sort of use the best attributes to create your position. If you have really good graphics, that can be a position as well, depending on the market that you're in. Certain markets, they don't care about graphics, or it could be your game has the greatest sound in the world, and it doesn't even need to be this is the best in that field. I say this is the best in this round, but you can use that creativity and sort of use that identity as your trump card and shout it out. So, like I said, every time that I go to places like this and do meetings and release press releases and do trailers and everything associated in marketing mix, you need to use that identity and use that position, because that's really what people are going to remember. And that's all I've got for you. That was a bit of time for questions, because I like discussion back and forth, so we can make a start. How are we okay, Amazon?
We've got 8 minutes, actually a lot more than 3, but I'm that math. We've got 13.
13 minutes, okay, cool. I'll get this guy here first.
Speaking of machine gun Joyride, when it was called first of all, how could that have impacted your drivers role? I mean, if everyone was like, how badly could that have impacted Halfbrick as a brand? I mean, you've been on the family for the league for you guys. If you did really under that name, how badly could it affect sales in your position?
Right. That's a great question. So basically the question was, if we did, you're talking about if we released a machine gun jetpack? Yeah, how badly that could have affected us. I don't think very much at all in terms of Halfbrick's brand, because the game itself was when people played it, they understood it and they were like, wow, I showed it to so many people. Like, oh, Machine Gun Kelly. And as soon as they played, they loved it. They loved it like so much. And they understood that there was a little bit of art, but it was completely cartoon, completely slapstick. We did that mostly for the benefit of the game specifically, and the universal appeal of that. Less so much the brand of Halfbrick. Age of Zombies is a better example of that in the sense that when we did, we originally did Age of Zombies, which we released on the PlayStation Network a while ago. It had a little bit of swearing in it. I wrote the script myself because I knew that identity was going to resonate well with the PlayStation market. Okay, there's minis here. It's a market with potential, and there isn't a similar product like it. I think with the right amount of humor and that kind of brand and that kind of personality to a typical trilogy zombie shooter, that was going to go well for PlayStation, and it did. It was voted the best PlayStation Mini of 2010, and then bringing that over to iOS. People did say, "Whoa, hang on! I thought you guys were super family friendly," and it was for the most part it was okay. It wasn't even the violence so much; it was just kind of a few slightly naughty words here and there, and that was an oversight on our part. That was a mistake. You move on, and we changed that and updated the game so it's no longer has that content, and we haven't had any complaints since. So. That's a better example of what you're talking about. You said Age of Zombies, but for Machine Gun Jetpack, I didn't really think having the machine gun was really going to make any difference at all. It was mainly for the fact that the name of the game and viewing that on the App Store was going to drive the most universal sales and recognition. Cool.
Halfbrick's brand is not really about quality mobile games. How well did that brand transfer across to the rest of this project? Can they actually work very well?
Oh, well, no, the thing is with Rascals, the question was how did our brand of mobile quality transition to Rascals? Well, yeah, Rascals was, I don't know how to really explain it. It was, we'd worked on that game for a long time, and we didn't do the best with it in terms of just scheduling development, right? And at that point, we were definitely promoting it. But it was kind of separate to everything we were doing in mobile. We knew that we're really gonna be a mobile casual developer now. Rascals was created at a time when that wasn't even a thought in our brain. So we wanted to make sure that game was the best it could be. We positioned it in that market specifically, but we weren't talking about it in the sense that all the values that you find in a traditional mobile game you're going to find in there because you just weren't going to. So yeah, that was a bit of an anomaly. Rascals was originally going to come out long before we even started for Ninja, but things happen. It was game development.
For groups of people who are maybe only starting an indie now and haven't yet got a product out to audience and that sort of thing, there may be this kind of, especially with the branding talk this morning and with this kind of stuff, there may be this kind of crisis within that small group of people who are trying to make something of, oh no, what's our brand, what's our identity, we haven't got one yet, we haven't thought about it yet. To what extent do you think it's important to listen to what consumers think of you? Like when you're starting to release your first game, perhaps, to work out as reflected in your audience what your identity might be, because what you think you are and what you actually bring to people might be different things.
Yeah, definitely. You're not always going to get your brand and position right away. Part of that is the research and sort of understanding the perception of customers. That's why you need to listen. I mean, Fruit Ninja was originally going to be like the iPhone's premium fruit murder simulator. So we sort of took out the murder and made it far more accessible. But I mean, you need to always listen to that feedback, and you need to stay true to yourself. Like, keep doing what you want to do, in the sense that it's still going to be successful. I mean, do you have any examples or something that you could elaborate on?
Actually, it's our only Libby. Like, we've been together for a while. We're talking about doing a lot of things. We've got a couple of projects in the boil, and we do have a dev blog through which we interact with people. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of thinking, oh no, we have to think about what our identity is before we contact our consumers. We have to put ourselves best foot forward and represent. You can feels like a chicken egg.
No, you can start with something, but don't feel that you need to create this massive, fully constructed, unbreakable brand and position message before you've done that. You know, that's something you're going to find out more and more as you make games, and which games get successful and which games you find are more fun to support. It's an ongoing process. Basically, when you have a hit game, that helps you make decisions a bit earlier because you get a lot more customer feedback. You sort of get a lot more insight as to what you value. But you know, we didn't just start with 3D. We made a lot of games. I have another presentation where I go through all of that sort of process and how we've been on a bunch of different platforms and built that up. So there's no one answer, but you just need to be aware of the sort of factors, the market factors, and the examples of other games to figure out, okay, how's that gonna fit in comparison to me. So as I said, the definition of position is how you're perceived in relation to the competition. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk to you more about it, but yeah, it is an evolving process, definitely. Yes.
How does Steamboats fit with Halfbrick identity?
Right. Okay, so Steamboats was basically a joint project between Spryfox and Halfbrick, and at the time we were kind of developing it and we put our development resources in it, so we're actually sharing revenue and things like that. At the end of the day, we decided, look, it's not quite Halfbrick right now in terms of this turn-based strategy. It's a bit too hardcore. It was published under the Spryfox account, and we were able to say, look, I mean, we worked on it. This is definitely something that we're looking at, but in terms of ongoing support, you know, it's not official yet. So yeah, I mean that was a decision that we moved ahead with, and we debated on over a few months.
So it sounds like when you started and thought people were displaying it as
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How do you go about determining where you're positioning?
Sorry, I coughed.
I'm just wondering how you guys at Halfbrick determine where your positioning is going to be. Like, is it your marketing guys? Is it your higher up guys? Is it your developer guys?
Yeah. No, like I said, the marketing is a function of everything, and I do talk with all the team leads and all the management guys, and you know, we help bring that forward. Everyone has their own ideas. You know, I'm in charge of marketing, so I get to manage that from the top level. But like I was talking about the Age of Zombies example before, you know, we spoke with the team about the position for that game on iOS in terms of content and how we would sort of present that to the consumer, and that's something we decided with as a team. You know, at the end of the day, sort of we made the final call. And the same with Jetpack Joyride. We're working with the universal aspect of it. You know, we're talking about the violence in it. You know, it was more violent, and we made it less violent. And then we decided, okay, we're going to have it. We were going to have it free, but then we decided, no, it's good enough to pay. So that position of paid contributed to the identity of it being, you know, the best end of tonight ever. So yeah, it's an ongoing process, but if you don't communicate and you don't work with each individual team, then yeah, it's going to be messy. You can't have someone just dictating that. As I said earlier, you know, in the traditional publisher-developer relationship, a lot of developers hate the marketing department because they come in and they say, oh, this, without kind of a back and forth, without sort of understanding the values of the team itself. Anyone else? Yo.
Say you have developed this identity and this brand, and then the company kind of decided that you all kind of want to go into a different direction. You know, say you're making like humorous games and you want to do something more serious. How would you kind of approach that situation in terms of just all the marketing and everything?
So what do you mean, like in terms of, in terms of like the company? What do you mean when you sort of say the company? You mean Halfbrick?
I mean, I guess sort of, kind of PR related. Like how would you kind of adapt your brand to kind of explain it to customers, like which direction you're going to be going down?
Right. Well, yeah. No, that's an evolving process. I mean, there isn't no one simple and say, oh, okay, we're gonna make a super serious game now. You have to look at that game. So, okay, it's going to be a more serious game, but why? And why is it going to be more serious? And think, okay, how can I link that to the identity of our company? Figure out the easy transition over to that. And that's a very sort of broad answer, but I mean, it depends, and it depends where the decisions come from as well. like with Age of Zombies with the iOS, it was more violent, but we were able to sort of convey that in a more cartoonish way because, making it super realistic wasn't going to fly. We could do serious games in the future, so we did like a puzzle game, which was less kind of, wacky. It was more, serious numbers or matching or whatever. There's definitely ways we can do it, but it just depends on the values of the developer and the team specifically, and the team lead and the direction of the game, and figure out, okay, which market we're going to put it in. We don't need to have it on the exact same market. PopCap has a bunch of different games. Plants vs Zombies is like it's a tower defense game, a dual, Peggle, more casual. It's a very kind of evolving process, and it's very complex, but yeah, you get the idea.
Got time for one more question?
How important do you find the long-term support of your game to the brand and overall sales? Like in the case of Fruit Ninja, existing users aren't going to be paying you any extra under the current model, like you don't have any in-app purchases, but you keep updating the game occasionally. Is that for the sake of new users? Do you find you get more users over time, more sales over time? When
Put it this way. If I update the game, if I get a user and they download Fruit Ninja for the first time, they go, okay, this is cool, this is fun. And then I update it with some new content. They go, okay, wow, okay, there's nothing new, I'm going to play it. And you have to make sure that content is valuable to them. And then I do it again and again and again. So they'll be playing the game for 5 months. And that means that on the 5th month, when I've got a new Fruit Ninja game coming out, I can tell them about it because they're still engaged with my brand. Whereas if I didn't support it, they would have stopped playing after 2 weeks and they would have never heard about it again. I mean, that's a very sort of cut and dry answer, but that's the case. You want people engaging with your game as much as possible.
So it's more to promote future sales than for sales of that title.
It's that, but it's more broad than that. It's less about promoting future sales. It's about owning the users, getting users really sort of happy with you and your company and your brand. Whether or not they buy the next game, that they may not. Not everyone who bought Fruit Ninja has bought Fruit Ninja Puss in Boots yet. But it's about building that player base and building that identity. So, yeah, you need to attack it from all fronts. Marketing, PR, support, development, branding. Everything comes together, and as I said before, that's something we're working on at all times because we have a gazillion different updates coming out at any one time for all of our different games. That's sort of a tapestry of how we're promoting them and how we're sort of building up things. So, when as I showed you the Fruit Ninja reposition, the new world and new characters and things like that, we're going to have a great base of players to sort of help fuel them into a different multimedia channel or a different platform, and from there, that's even more things that they can get involved with, and even more things they can get engaged with, they'll find value in. So, yeah, it's just a lot of hard work. As I said, building that mind share, it's a longer process than just from getting a hit and suddenly getting 10 million users. It's a lot of hard work over a long period of time.
All right, guys, let's everyone thank Phil.